Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All of our guests today, including Ian Furness, KJR Sports Radio, Seattle, standing by. Brought to you by the Arnold Palmer Design Whistler Golf Club, reminding golfers exceptional conditions continue right through to Thanksgiving weekend. WhistlerGolf.com for more information. I always say, I don't know if it must be the same feeling down in Seattle. I think September is the best month in Vancouver, weather-wise.
Oh, yeah.
Not too hot, not too cold.
Right in the middle.
You know, autumn colors.
Absolutely.
Like my shirt. As we welcome back from KJR Sports Radio, Ian Furness, maybe telling us what the best month to visit Seattle or to live in Seattle is. He's speechless.
Speechless.
You got him there, Ryan?
I got you.
There you go.
I'm just pulling a Rick Dollywall.
That was good. Man, did you get us?
Very good. Very good.
I did plug in my mic today. I listened yesterday, fellas. I know. It's a hard thing there, Dolly. It's a hard thing.
I kicked the wire down here. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Broadcast professional.
You know what's unbelievable is that I think all of us have played that trick on our friends in the business.
Yes.
And I fell for it completely. I just assumed we'd have technical difficulties at some point during today's show.
It never gets old. And someone can do it to me too, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And of all things, you should know it was coming. After yesterday, I listened yesterday. It was awesome to have you guys back on after your summer hiatus. So yeah, well done, boys.
Thank you.
How was your summer, Ian?
I worked, so it was hard. I grinded.
What's that like?
It's not fun, to be honest with you. I'd rather, not do it. But hey, we're in the different business, man. It's fun and games business for the three of us, right? It's not like we're doing heavy lifting. So all good. Good to see you guys, man.
And September in Seattle, is it like Vancouver? I feel it's the best month.
We have pretty much the same weather, right? I think it's the same, and it's I like a little bit of a chill in the air. For us down here, it's football season, and it just kind of, you feel that. Obviously, hockey season starts. Kraken rookies report tomorrow, and and all that. So it just kind of it's a great. Listen, I think because we're sports guys, it's the best time of the year because it just feels like everything's kind of kicking in. You've got the stretch run in baseball, football's underway, college and pro, hockey's about ready to start. If you're a basketball fan, that's not too far away. It's a glorious time of the year, and I do like kind of a little. I'm not a big heat guy. That's why we live in the Northwest, right? So I don't need 90 degrees. I don't need that at all. I just give me a little 70, 65, 70, sunny. I'm in.
What were those numbers? I thought you were half Canadian. Now, come on.
Double the number and add 30, and you're pretty close.
Okay, there you go.
There you go.
Hey, you mentioned football. Seahawks win their opener 26-20 over Denver. Had to come back to do that. What did that performance tell you about the Seahawks, in particular, what the defense was up to?
Well, the defense was we assumed and we thought that the defense would be better, and they were. There's no doubt. The Mike Macdonald influence, arguably, and I don't even know if it's an argument, most people, consensus around the NFL, feel like he was the best defensive mind in the league. And so you hire him as a head coach and you feel like, okay, your defense is going to get better. They had guys. We talked about it last year. It's like they had dudes on that roster. Their secondary is elite. Reek Woolen and Devin Witherspoon, Trey Brown, Julian Love. I mean, they're elite in the back end, and they were better up front personnel-wise than they showed last season. So, that didn't surprise me. Bo Nix is not a good NFL quarterback yet. Maybe he will be, but right now he's not. I mean, he couldn't. His average pass attempt, I think air yards was like 0.3 or something. It was like an all-time, literally like a league low. So, they took advantage of a quarterback that couldn't throw the ball down the field or was unwilling to, or his coach was unwilling to, and the defense kept a team that was offensively challenged for about almost 30 minutes. They kept them in the game, and they held on for the win.
You mentioned Mike Macdonald. What are the major differences, Ian, Mike Macdonald versus Pete Carroll?
Man, Donnie, it's night and day. Pete, I love Pete, and I don't want to ever. If I ever come on here and disparage him, please hold me to that. Pete Carroll's the best coach we've had in the history of Seattle sports. He won a Super Bowl, went back to another one, won division titles every year. You were always in it with Pete Carroll as your coach, which is funny because that's the Mariners' goal, is just to be in it, not to win it. But Pete was just he was a pleasure to deal with. Great for the fans, signed autographs before game. I mean, just 70 years old and just this energy that all of us wish we had. But I don't think it was time for a change. It just was. It was time for a change. Mike Macdonald comes in. You go from the oldest coach in the league, the youngest coach in the league. And Mike Macdonald's a little more buttoned down. He's showing a lot more personality lately. I remember the first time I sat down for an interview with him, we did a one-on-one the day he was hired. And I'm like, man, this dude's going to be a tough nut to crack. Like, he's really but he's really loosened up. He's got some energy. He's got some humor to him. Guys like him. I think the big key with him is this, and this is probably the one place they're really similar. Very optimistic. They looked awful on the offensive line and the offense as a whole in the first half against Denver. I mean, I didn't think we could get a worse offensive line performance than we did last year. We did in the first half on Sunday. By all accounts, all the players we talked to afterwards are saying, hey, McDonald came in there at halftime and it was like, we're good, move ahead, blah, blah, blah. That's very Pete Carroll-like. Didn't yell, didn't scream, didn't lose his mind. Just was very even keel and got him on the right path. And so I think those are the similarities, is they have a very positive outlook. And, he will chew guys out. It is a little different regime in that regard, but I think when needed, he knows when to crack the whip and when to kind of, hey, let's treat him with kid gloves. And I think he did that on Sunday.
Ian, another hockey season upon us. The Kraken, new head coach Dan Bilesma, but he hasn't been a head coach in the NHL since 2017. But of course, he's been coaching the Kraken farm team. Your thoughts on him getting the job? We never talked to you. And the expectations in Seattle are what for the Kraken, Ian?
I would say they're tepid right now, Rick. To be honest with you, they're a little bit off the radar, and I think we might have talked about this last year. They made the same mistake the Mariners made when the Mariners made the playoffs in 2022. They kind of stood pat, right? They didn't really add anything in the offseason. The guys they did add were, end of the line guys that were just taking up Tommy LaStella and these dudes that just didn't work out. Colton Wong. And they didn't do anything to build on that momentum and that enthusiasm, and they lost all of that last season. Kraken did the same thing. The Kraken did the same thing. They had that playoff run, and they just really didn't do anything in the offseason. They figured Burakovsky coming back was going to be the one little lift they would need. That proved not to be the case. He couldn't stay healthy. And goaltending and defense kept them in games last season, but they just couldn't score. The Hackstall system is a great playoff system, I think. Just the way they pressure you, the way they forecheck, they try to cycle. If you watch this team play last season, they didn't do that. They're not built for that. And so, and Hackstall wears on guys, the grind and all of that. It just didn't work. And this is where they're different than the baseball team. The Kraken, they don't mess around. Okay, it didn't work. His contract extension hadn't even started. It would start this year.
Yep.
That's fine. We're not going to worry about the money. Mariners worry about money. Kraken worry about winning. It's as simple as that, guys. It's really that simple. And they said, hey, man, we're going to go out there, make a move. They bring in – and we might have talked about this before. When 2 years ago was the first year Coachella Valley. When they hired Dan Bilesma, if you're Dave Hackstall, you had to be looking over your shoulder the entire time, right? Like, here's a guy that had the success and the resume he did in the National Hockey League, and he's willing to take an American Hockey League job. And it kind of felt like it was inevitable. The style of play will be different. It'll probably fit this team more. They fit this roster more. They went out and had a couple nice free agent acquisitions. We can, debate whether or not 7 years is too long for those guys or not. They're going to sign. In fact, they just did announce the Adam Larson sign. They made it official here about an hour ago. So he's probably going to be their captain. There's some people that are worried about term and AAV with him too, but I think they just love his solid play on the back end. And they took a step, they took a jump, they took a leap of faith with Bilesma, but more importantly, they invested back in the product this year, and I think they're going to be a better hockey team. The problem is they play in a really good conference, and I mean, it's hard to get in the postseason in the West. I think we all know that.
I do love Chandler Stevenson, and I also like Brandon Montour, and they bring Stanley Cup winning experience in the last 2-3 years. That's huge for any dressing room. And Matty Beniers gets a new big whopping 7-year, $50 million deal.
Yeah.
Out of all those signings, who do you like?
I didn't lose you there. You guys back with me? I'm sorry. Yeah, I did. That wasn't me messing around. Okay. So sorry about that.
I thought you were doing it again.
No,
who do you like? Who do you like out of their signings?
Well, Beniers obviously is the one because he's your cornerstone, right? Like he's your franchise guy. Let's just start with Beniers for a second. Really player friendly the first couple of years. Like he doesn't deserve that kind of money right now. I think we'd all agree upon that based on his production. But based on what he should be doing, could be really team friendly on the back end of that contract. He's young. He's still just a kid. So I like that one. I like Montour a lot. I think really they needed the back end took I mentioned the goaltending and defense kept him in games last year, but the back end took a step back. The pairing, the Lexiak, Borgen pairing just wasn't as good last year. Lexiak just took a massive step back. Schultz their third pair wasn't very good. It wasn't consistent. Dumoulin came on at the end of the year. They traded him. Riker Evans, I think he'll be paired with Riker. I'm assuming Montour will be. And I like that pairing a lot. I love that pairing. In fact, I think Borgen and Lexiak end up being your third pair. And up front, they need a second line center in a sense in Chandler Stevenson. I think, he's Beniers, Stevenson, Shane Wright should be number 3. And if Yanni Gourde is your third center, that's a pretty good 1, 2, 3, 4 down the middle. I mean, you can debate, Wright and Yanni as your third line center, but I think they expect Shane Wright to take that next step.
Ian, just looking back at this interview, I think the best part of it was the start. And we couldn't hear you.
Yeah, I think I'm assuming all of your listeners will say the same thing. I'll tell you, I love this time of the year because I can go on my radio show in Seattle and I can drop an F-bomb or I can do whatever and I get a little reaction. I come on here and say anything to you guys, and your audience must be massive. Did you guys get a big raise in the offseason? Because it's huge. Your reach is massive. We
don't deal in dollars. We deal in days off. I don't know if you realize that.
Yeah, we take the weeks off. Yeah. Weeks off.
Well, you're in that sense, you guys are millionaires. And then some.
Great to have you back, buddy. Appreciate it.
Love doing this every week and love talking to the fans up in Vancouver. You guys are the best. I'll talk to you soon.
You bet.